Soph? What is it? What is it, Sophie? I have a guest star today. And for the next 2 weeks, her name is Sophie. Her name is Sophie. She's Muttley's favorite friend. And her name is Sophie. Just trying to get her comfy and acclimated. She's stayed with us before, but my space is always changing, and she's been at a dog sit of someone else for a little while. I love having more animals. You can't quite see this, but I've received this rug. My grandmother rug hooked it, and it has Miles and Oscar and their names on it, which were my childhood cats. She made it years and years ago. My mother had it, and my mom gave it to me in addition to this table, and I love it. I love it because I have another painting in here that was in my grandparents' home, and there's this nice element of like traditional nostalgia that makes these these objects really special. Okay, so it is the new moon. The energy's been absolutely crazy and insane. I need a different way of sitting. Sit like this. Quite tense. There's a lot going on, and it's important to be aware of that and do what you have to do to protect yourself and kind of, remain in a space of peace and in your own capacity while you balance the intensity that is existing around you and happening as a result of, happening for you as a result of what is happening collectively. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to post this because I'm not in the space to do a full or long reading, and I'd like to do that, but the energy is not really going to allow for it, I don't think, for me. So I will say before I get into the cards, on my way back from Vermont, it's like another travel gone wrong story, like with Italy. Basically with Lake Champlain, to go from Vermont back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you just driving through New York State for much of the time, and when you start in Vermont, you can either drive around the lake and then get into the Adirondacks, or you can take a ferry from Charlotte, Vermont to Essex, New York that takes 30 minutes and then just drive a different way. And so coming in, we drove around the lake, and I thought it would be a nice idea to get a much earlier start than we did, and just kind of watch the sunrise and take the ferry on the first one out. And so the night before, my tire pressure light came on, and I was like, we should check this probably now. But it was like 11 p.m. and just wanted to go home and, finish packing and get a good sleep. And so I was like, well, just look in the morning. So we were basically getting our ferry ticket. We had just paid for it, and we parked, or not parked, but drove into the lane where you board the ferry. And I got out and I checked the tire, and it was like mostly flat. I was like, okay, we have a problem. And I started stressing out because I was like, there's nothing on the other side of this ferry. There's no gas stations I know we're about to land at and have to go through. And so I called my mom because we had done this trip. Did you find one? Muttley, you're gonna have to share, buddy, you have so many others. She found one, let her have that one. You don't even like that one. I asked the lady who worked at the ferry. She ended up telling me that the guys who work the crew could try to add air from the boat. So when we were on the ferry, they tried, and then they found that there was kind of a slashing in the tire of some kind. So we had to basically get off the ferry with the flat tire when we got to Essex, New York. And I had called AAA after they tried to put air in it when we were on the boat, and arranged for somebody to be dispatched to meet us there to put my spare on, and then we would drive to a tire place and have to get a new tire. And Essex, New York is not the place to engage the services of AAA. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but it took 2 hours for somebody to get to us, and it was raining, and we were sitting there, and I had gotten all this furniture from my mom, and so the trunk and the whole car really was perfectly packed. My dog had like this tiny little nest seat, and then it was just 2 small bedside tables and coffee tables and all of our luggage and like a dog bag and like things we acquired when we were there and our bodies. And so we had to unpack everything in the rain just to get up to the spare. And then when he showed up, and then we repacked the back because it was raining. I didn't want my stuff to just be sitting there. We were like garnering pity from strangers. And he shows up and he's like, well, where's like the tool? And I'm like, I expect that when you come to do this, you bring the tools. I don't have any tools. We unloaded the car again to check to see if there was any tools in there. There weren't, but I found a side panel and there was tools in there. I was like, huzzah, the tools. And we unwrapped this little leather bundle that's like, and his tool isn't there. He's looking at my wheel saying this is a special kind of thing that only pertains to VWs. And at that point I lost my temper, and I regret doing that. That weighed on me for about 6 of the 10 hours that we were in the car for. It kept popping back into my mind, and I was like, I snapped a little bit. Because when he said that, he was like, it's none of these. It takes a special kind of tool. I was like, of course it fucking does. And he was like, oh, I was like, this is not you. I'm just trying to emphasize that we've been waiting for 2 hours and we're about to go on a 10-hour drive. And we tried to leave, we woke up at 5:30. And then I talked to the ferry lady and I was like, can we just get back on for free? Like, you just saw us wait here for 2 hours. And she was like, yeah. I was like, so can we get back on, go back to Vermont and try to call somebody else from AAA? Because I'm just gonna, I took photos of the wheel, the specialized star nose lug nut that he couldn't match his equipment to, or my pouch from the side panel. Got back on the ferry, still with the flat tire, called AAA on the way over. And at this point we were reaching, my friend and I on this trip together, great travel buddies, harmonious time. And then like this starts to ensue. And so like through like the madness of just adjusting to what it was that we were dealing with, the AAA call was like a breaking point where it was an automated menu. And she was asking us like, how the voice does the prompts to identify your case and file a ticket for roadside assistance. She's like, what state are you in? And we're like on the water, like laughing. She's like, is the car at home or somewhere else? And I couldn't even get the words out. I was wheezing. I was like, it's somewhere else. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand that. And then she literally said, the voice said, I'm looking for a yes or no answer here. Oh. Okay, so then we got back to shore. It was just such a trying sequence of events, and there was a lot of intensity with my nostalgia of going home and just the energy transits right now. So a lot to process, and like I was really feeling exhausted, and I had also stayed up the night before making us an amazing playlist, and then accidentally I just canceled. It was 209 songs, and it took me an hour and a half to make it, and we had, got home quite late, and I was needing to get up early, but I was like, I will regret it if I don't make an epic playlist. I want to be able to just relax, and what better feeling than just having the maps plugged in, having the songs, just being so surprised, because the shuffle would have been insane. It was great. It was a great playlist. And then I deleted it. I didn't save it. And I was like, I was so upset. And then I was like, well, I still want it. So I started over. I just accepted it, and I just started over. Some of my searches in my music app are still kind of intact, so I navigated back through it, but I was like, I don't even remember what I was trying to build. It was so beautiful. I just was grabbing songs from all these different eras and affiliations, and it was gonna be epic. So I kind of made a half-baked version of that. We got to listen to that on the way back, which made things better, but I didn't even want to start it until we resolved the tire thing. It was so annoying. And so we're back on the Vermont side. And I was like, at this point, we're going to have somebody come put the spare on, and then we're just better off, going to a tire place here, because I know this side of the land, and we can go, 20 minutes and then just drive around the lake. And so the other AAA guy shows up after 45 minutes, and he puts the spare on. But before that, he immediately, I had texted him. I was paranoid about this happening again. I was like, I need for somebody to be able to help us. And so I got the guy's number who was coming out, and I texted him photos of the caps that the other guy didn't have the part for. And I said, can you help me with this? It's supposedly a special part. And he gets here and he looks at it and he's like, that's not special at all. And he just takes out pliers and pulls them off. And I was like, okay. Actually, I started singing his praises. I think we were just I get a little intense when we're dealing with things, but it's because I want to keep situations moving. And I also had to go through many different phone calls of places to tire people and explain things. And it's the part of me that come up to play to bat if I was in law somehow. Same part of me. I'm like, I will get things done and keep moving this along because there's an intensity here and it has to be handled. We need to figure this out. So he comes. He's a much better car man, savior from locally dispatched auto body mechanic or shop, and has no problem with the tire, puts the spare on, but he says, you didn't do your tire rotation. So there's little spikes that come out when you don't do that, and your tires are severely worn. And I was like, I didn't understand that because I think I got new tires pretty recently. So I was like, well, they've got plenty of life left, right? And he's like, no, you see this? This will cut your finger open. And if this one's like that, then they probably all are. So you need to get 4 new ones. I was like, of course I do. And so we called a tire place, but instead of going there, we just went to the VW place to kind of be certain about it. And then we met the best guy of the day. And he was like, yes, we can do it. We have what you need. Excuse me. Sophie, come on. She goes secretly and tries to eat my cat's food. We're not going to do that. Kitty lives here. You already had your dinner, so come up and lie down. Come on, Sophie. Relax, sweet beauty. Okay, Sophie. Okay. Yeah, so he said that he couldn't, that we would be done by 3 o'clock. And we were like, it gives us time to, go get some food. Because at this point it had been hours. I think it was around noon. And he was like, I was like, well, what about the dog? Can I leave him in there? And because the car was so stuffed, he was like, there was a dog in there? And I was like, yeah, in the back seat, the small one, because the other 2 were down. And he had stuff encasing him. I made sure he was comfy. And he had a little bowl wedged in. The whole situation was perfect. And he was a lot easier on the drive back than the drive there because he had been exhausted by the play and the experiences that he got to have. So that at least was good. But he was like, yeah, no, you got to take the dog out. And I was like, even just if the car's sitting here waiting to be seen? And he's like, yeah, because if we can take it in, then we'll take it in. You have to have him out. And I was like, okay. And so I got him out, and I forget how dog friendly Vermont is. I was down on Church Street with my brother, and he's like, why don't you have the dog? And I was like, and everybody around me had dogs, and they just bring them into all the stores, and it's not like that here. And that's what I dream of. And I had left him because I didn't want to not be able to do things. But I was kind of fearing, I was so hungry, and I just wanted to go into this bagel place. It's a childhood favorite of mine. And so I'm always just kind of, trying to do things I'll look for signage and stuff, but then I'll proceed and ask for forgiveness and correct my behavior instead of asking for permission, because really in many cases there aren't, if there's not signage and stuff, you just kind of can do what you need to. And he's a respectful dog. He was very well behaved in this bagel shop, and nobody said anything. So we got our food, we waited. When we got back, the car was already being seen, and the service guy there really helped us out, and I got a survey about his performance to my email, and I will be completing it, as well as the guy from AAA who showed up the second time. I got both of their names, but the second AAA guy, he would like didn't want me to. I don't know. I do think that, yeah. I mean, even the ferry, I was going to say, I do think that our crisis amused some people, but not like in a bad way. I think it was very interesting to see how curious people were. There was a man in a Suburban who was watching the initial breakdown at like 7 a.m. And he came over when the guy's on the ferry. He was just trying to be helpful, but like he was interested in our predicament. And then there was a woman just in her, probably like 70s, just chain smoking out of her window, watching. This is the second part of the saga. And she like was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "We got a problem." And then there was a couple on the ferry. I was checking out, I was reading the specs because it was part of the process where I was like, okay, what kind of tire? I would put them in their 60s. It was a couple, and at that point I was just like used to telling the tale because like it had been a couple hours. I just told them everything, and they were like, "Well, Pittsburgh's not going anywhere." I was like, "Thanks for that." The daylight is, my sanity is. But we did very well with the unfolding events, and then finally got on the road. And, the guys were like, "You also need an alignment and some new wipers." And the wipers thing is true because the week before I left, I was in an absolute frenzy trying to purge my car of every single item, which is a big deal because of what I do for work. My car always has items in it. And I vacuumed it out. I took it to a car wash, and at the car wash, I accidentally had a moment where he was like, "Turn your wipers off," because I guess they were on the automatic mode. And I just spaced and hit them the wrong way, and instead of turning them off, I put them into like hyperspeed. And the spaghetti noodles had already come down and started doing their business, and my wipers were like... So I needed new wipers, and it did rain for a majority of our journey, and that was a very good call. But yeah, super trying sequence of inconveniences. It was a series of unfortunate events indeed. And we got in so late because of, the final stretch, the last 2 hours of any day-long drive are insane. As far as just like keeping on, the redundancy of it all, and the playlist that I made, it helped, I think. Yeah, I just like to sing. I consume, mostly or like a few caffeinated things, and then just electrolytes or water, and but not even too much because I don't want to have to stop and pee. I always have to pee if I drink a little bit, so mostly just getting caffeinated in the beginning. We had our bagels, and I got 2 bagels because I had 2 favorite things at this bagel bakery growing up, and I ate one like when we were waiting for the car to get done, and then I ate one about 5 hours later. And there was this magical moment, like this playlist on it was a song Lacrimosa by Mozart, and that had come on, and we were it's a fun drive once you get to a certain point because the roads are so windy, but they're not so windy that you can't go, like you can get up to like 65 and the speed limit supports that, except it's like where there's just like the best leaves. Because of all the rainfall in Vermont this year, the leaves were better in the Adirondacks actually, so I liked that part of it. We didn't get there until like 3:34, so it was golden hour. That's supposed to be the first part of the journey, but we left so late. And with silent, beautiful wipers, so it started raining, and I was like, great, they work. Let's go. We had been cruising for a while, and you don't really see other cars, and if you do, you kind of caravan with them for a bit, but then there's always a good sight line and a dotted line. You just cruise around them and keep going, and it's a nice drive. And so we were finally slowing down. There was cones, and it was like there's some road work. A neon sign told us, and so I was slowing down, and we end up kind of waiting, and like Lacrimosa was picking up at that time, and we were so delirious. We were delirious from the jump, so it was like a great time, honestly. Decided to roll the windows down, and because I was burning Palo Santo, I was like, I'm gonna aerate this space because with the dog, dog treats, and we're you know, just Palo Santo and circulate the air a little bit and stuff. So rolled the windows down and just blasted the Lacrimosa and went through this construction zone and just greeted everybody because we felt like it. And I don't think there's anything more lovely than that strange, like, coinciding of the song with this dramatic passage, because they were just doing this. I mean, the roads are beautifully paved. It's sort of amazing. I'm not used to that. And then, so, yeah, got in really late, and then I had to be at a meeting at 9 a.m. and right back into the way of things. And now we're here with you joining us, sweet angel. I love having her. And what else we got? His birthday tomorrow. And this insane new moon solar eclipse. And I wrote a long post about it, and I do need to take a break because I need to use my creative energy to complete some projects. I really do. And I believe that some will be in service of this channel, but I just need to take the biggest break. I think it's pretty crazy how dedicated I've been to it, but I utilize it in the way that I'm moved to, and it's been really good for me. I've been making, I think, a lot of progress in how I, this video isn't a good example of that, but pare down my ideas to become more and more understandable and get just, you know, spider totem energy of linking the tale together, but also the lessons and interpreting the messages that I get when I sink into a space like this. Very interesting siren. So I've been really just growing a lot through this period of continuing to do the videos. I put all of my butterflies up, by the way. They're all in the space, and I'm feeling very positive about my living quarters and how I said this, incorporated some of my more traditional roots elements. And I think I might do like, well, maybe it'll be a short. Maybe I can pare it down so much that it could just be like clips of little moments, because I want to talk about why I lay things out the way that I do in cardinal directions and feng shui, we'll say. But yeah, so I mean, the cycle that I began, like, I need to kind of take this little interim breather because we're in a new energy cycle leading into December, and it's just going to get more and more intense. And so I need to prepare for that, and everybody does. And there's so many small circuits within the larger energy cycle. So I will say that if, like, I would always recommend going back to watch videos that I posted at a time. Like, if there are things, like if I do a reading right now and there are things that you feel like you're still struggling with, scrolling back through the videos to find some type of title that addresses or may help, like, they're still relevant because this has been one thread, right? This is the thing that's being woven. We're living it, and that's why there are energy updates about it. Oh gosh, it's really like intense for the body right now too with this energy. I think that people are probably feeling tension in their attitudes, in their, you know, might have like tight muscles and soreness more than usual, and potentially disturbed sleep and potentially indigestion, and just like not feeling like, my personal feeling is I'm very achy and sore. I mean, from that long car ride, certainly, but like my knees get really stiff like that on long car rides. When we get out and like at a truck stop, and just started like jumping like crazy in the parking lot just to I needed my circulation to be flowing. And then I realized that all of the trucks that were stopped were probably full of people just staring at us like in the headlights, like at a fire circle or something, just trying to, you know, but I'm sure people understand. I was like, why isn't anybody else doing this? Maybe they didn't have as far to go. But what I was going to say is I'm personally finding that the energy is wanting me to just like exercise and burn, like actually work and feel my blood flow. And I will feel much better if I do that. And I haven't had the time because of how I've had to transition right back into work. And so I'm prioritizing sleep and trying to feel well, because just like when I came back from Italy, like I can rise to the occasion and handle things when they need to be handled. But if I deplete myself and I'm like, that was a lot, and I don't get to rest, then I'll get sick. I mean, that goes for anybody. Sometimes, right, we don't have a choice but to have to handle things. Like, I wish that I had 4 days to be in bed and then return to things, but that's not the way that life works in many cases. With better planning, we can always try to make our, situations more comfortable. But I'm feeling like I have to move. I'm feeling like I have to stretch. I'm not feeling the way that I usually feel on a new moon, when I feel like I want to glow in this heart space of setting intentions and connecting my energy to the things that I'm manifesting. I'm more so trying to feel even keel right now, because that is staying afloat. I have been depleted, and I think a lot of people have, because of different, I said, and I've said in the past, I think that my trips, as I plan them, they're somewhat intuitive, because it's a combination of things coinciding. I can't just go wherever I want, whenever I want at all. I don't have the means to do that, despite if it ever looks that way. That's not the case. And so when I get to go to certain places at certain times, there's kind of this beautiful meaning for that. And so I think that the energy that I was feeling when I was back home is collective, which is, why I did the readings when I was there. But I think that even if you didn't travel in the way that I did, there's this depletion that is collective. And obviously there's a lot of intense stuff. And I said I would touch on it next week, and I think I will touch on it. This isn't, so I don't know if I'll call this the new moon reading. I don't even know if I'll post this. I'm in, more of a depleted state. And I've said in the past that if I know that I'm like this, then it's not worthwhile for me to do a reading, because I'm not in the space of being able to be as good for sharing collective messages. But I don't think that that's true this evening. I just know that I need to take care of myself and rest up, and also just process all of the changes that are happening. So that being said, okay, wait, no, one last thought about it. The body, and like just going easy on yourself right now. And if you do feel moved to be in that creative space of like writing, I don't know, what you want to release, what you want to bring in, then by all means do that. I've been feeling like I just need to keep it calm and quiet and let things be as they are, because I'm processing a lot. I think other people might feel that way as well. So an example, like I'm getting a lot of, I know that my knee issues, like I'm gaining certain blockages that even if we carry them for like, generations, a lot of it has energetic and like emotional core and root. And so I've been kind of meditating on the sensations in my knees and trying to release some of the chronic inflammation and blockages really that I carry and that I have carried. And I have a relationship with my hands because of how much it's in my artwork, and being able to kind of locate they're like a tether for me, like in the movie Inception. Like I know I'm dreaming when I go like this, and I can do this. This is actually it's called a reality check if you want to start having more lucid dreams. A lot of people probably already know this, but you do things during your waking life to just get your brain in the habit of seeing and doing certain things, because then via residual day matter, which is the idea that just a certain amount of stuff in dreams is from what you saw that day, there's a increased likelihood that you would go to do it, and then when you do it in real life, the reality check, you say, am I dreaming? No. They look and behave just as they would if I wasn't dreaming. But so in my dreams, if I do that, they start to glow, and I'm like, yeah, it's happening. So another one is like turning off a light switch. It's 2929 when I looked up, which is 1111. Or looking in a mirror. Or if you're, I don't know, throwing, like tossing something. So I was talking about releasing energy out of my knees or places that I do have like chronic pain in the body, right? Because we can speak to these areas and try to release it out and, truly feel into just like the different sensations and what they bring upon us, right? And how our minds wander when we're in certain conditions, just all of that's the type of stuff that you can email me about. I am going to be opening a practice probably in 6 months. But that's not too far off when you think about it. There are certain things that I've always been working on, and aspects of these larger things, certain parts of them are just developing really naturally. So I'm seeing timelines in a different way for my creative life, but the practice is going to be based around the idea of like quantum healing and being able to understand the layers to your own energy field and indications and all sorts of things. So there'll be a lot of material that is just available as a result of that, because I'm definitely a workshop. I like to teach and design tools for like teaching, but explaining, like diagrams and images and all sorts of things. I found something that was pretty funny. It was stuff that I drew when I was a kid. I asked my dad for my my file in our filing cabinet, and I thought it would yield much more, and it makes me think that there's another file somewhere. I think I had multiple files because I was looking for stories. We found drawings, and I made quizzes, just like flow charts of like, you start here and you answer questions and it filters you through and it gives you results. And my friend and I were taking them, having a fun time because they were kind of silly, but they're also, I don't know, pretty similar to how they are if you go to a magazine and like find one, because they were all they existed in this fictional universe where everybody was cats, and there was like pop divas, but they were cats. And so like their names and like the supporting brands, like I had multiple cat magazines that I like drew, and I would carry the branding and the companies and like the stories of the tabloid, fame tales of like the Meow Sisters. It's like my cat rug from childhood and my cat magazines and get your bone. Before I get into the reading, the other physical thing that I'm dealing with is something I call finger fear. I think I've talked about it in previous videos, but it's been a long time. So for years, I've had something where at least 3 times a week, sometimes there's like flare-ups of more instances. Like sometimes it's like a whole day it's happening. Right now it's very intense. It's been multiple times a day for several days, but I get these overwhelming sensations that I feel on like multiple levels. It's so physically, it feels like it's so real that I almost gasp. The feeling of my fingers being like snapped and just broken. And sometimes I get it as if it's like a wheel and they're just being like caught and twisted and mangled in like a mechanism, like spokes. And other times it's like the absolute splintering via bending backward, and it's this shades, different fonts of the same thing, and I just have to release it. But I believe that there's something in our physical bodies right now where if we carry attachments in certain parts of ourselves, we'll be aching there, and it needs our attention, because we're trying to remove certain blocks. They're actually being removed whether we like it or not. That's why we're feeling them, and that's what I addressed in the post that I put on the community page, where it says like, you have to feel it to heal it, but sometimes we forget that just means like you're going through it. Nobody's life is perfect, nor will it ever be, and there's these levels to like holding the ability to remain calm, and stay at be in a reliable vibration and frequency for yourself amongst chaos and personal chaos. Not that you have to deny what you're going through, but like, we can just, a lot of us kind of shut down or like deny that certain things are even happening, and we create this dissonance. It's sort of this automatic or inadvertent dissociation that happens. I'm seeing the 7 of Swords card, like thieving away with our own, kind of subtle delusions that are like something of like projected tunnels that our ego navigates to protect us. And we're really, we're feeling kind of heavy. And again, it's a little bit different than that spiritual itch of the pastry flakes. That was like cocoon, like we're becoming a butterfly. I mean, I think that our butterfly wings are kind of gooey and wet. We're kind of having to rise to this momentous sensation that is being able to kind of like release density through feeling it out of ourselves, you know, and sensing into the parts of us that are showing us through sensation that they are the location of where we need to kind of give love right now. And it doesn't mean like, okay, toe, like, what do you need? You know, as you bring your consciousness to the sensation of the toe and perhaps a pain in it, you know, how does that feel? When you take a breath, does it change it? You know, you imagine bringing light in, you know, through your crown chakra, healing light, connecting with something that you can bring, and you breathe it into that space, and you can give pain color and texture, and you can see it leaving. You can work with these spaces. You can think about what pops into your mind when you're doing things like this, and try to find, you know, memories or experience of like injury, or how we carry memory and trauma in the body. They say that the body never forgets. The mind might. We block things out to protect ourselves. I always take issue when people say like, we can say whatever we want around the baby, it's just a baby. I don't agree. Well, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I do believe that they are at their most spongy and impressionable. All right. So honoring the body, resting, not expecting to be in this. I mean, I always see, this is, you know, another thing with the spiritual community and the internet, like every new moon and every full moon, you know, you see posts and it's like magical blessings, like everything you want is coming in, and it's a special time. And I get how that can feel, you know, redundant and stuff. And there's a lot more nuance to, I mean, I think that's a byproduct of people just recycling content, but then also like there's many layers to the energy. And yes, the new moons and the full moons are always going to be really amazing, auspicious times, but it doesn't mean that there are more 3D manifested layers of how that magnificent uprising in the energy that's evolving is affecting our lives. And so I'm very much, you know, a part of, I'm just representing a way of navigating this transit that is much more feeling that the magnificence, it's like this one, it's when I was on, it was the most recent reading I posted probably 4 days ago now, and I was talking about fire, trial by fire, the Ace of Wands, forged by fire. There's this, you know, alchemy is to burn things down and you know, what it's like chemistry within our own lives, and trying to mix the right things within ourselves, right? And make sense of what we are, know that is what living is, right? When you take up space energetically, there is this contribution of your own like essence to yourself. And then this is why I talk about focusing on the inner world, and knowing that when you create, we are a consumer culture. And I think that a lot of solutions for humanity rely on people thinking about, you know, less about what they can get and have, and more about what they can make and give. And the fire, I think that a lot of people whose hearts are kind of in a space of being aligned with wanting to live in a way that's like that, we'll be releasing a lot of stuff right now. And maybe that's, you know, subconscious, but in order for us to be able to live without those, right, other wands and the 10 of Wands card, the things that we, and I talked about this in the post too, it's like the damp paper towels that are stuck to us. It's a heaviness, but it's also just like this annoyance. Like, it's not quite as fluffy as pastry flakes, but it's just like lantern flies if you live in a state where I was eating mini sliders outside last night at a picnic table, drinking some beer, and I'm go down to pick up my little burger, and there's a lantern fly next to it. I picked it up by the wing and I threw it away. And the waitress had just come to bring me another drink, and she was like, oh, and I was like, I did not throw that at you, I threw it over here. And she's like, you're good. But I think that people's patience is thin right now. Mine is for lanternflies. But yeah, we're being asked to slow down and breathe and know that we have the ability to key into that same, cool, flat bottom of the river. It doesn't feel as gratifying because when you have really good, like, spiritual, sensations, when you're feeling aligned, it's like glowy and it's all good, and you feel like you are manifesting and it's good stuff, right? But when you have to kind of like do it as like sometimes we would rather just, it's like, okay, so everything that happens to you, you can either respond well or poorly. And it's like, how do you respond to the hardest things? You can still respond well. And so it's like every moment when you respond to something either dials you up or takes you down further. So sometimes when we get, depleted or bogged down or overwhelmed or too tired, or, energy's just weird, or we have a series of strange encounters that make us not feel good or whatever. In each moment, if you continue to respond poorly and poorly and poorly, you always can choose to either try to remain even. It's like treading water. If you can't spiral up through creating positive momentum by being, contributing in a way that dials you up. And again, think about the spectrum of vibration that is affiliated with, the frequency of different emotions. Sustaining that, like, as you dial up with a positive response to reactions and stringing that together, it's like we have the potential right now to kind of go on these downward spirals. And I do believe that there's a lot of things that we can bypass, right? Not dig into as these things. Just be a little bit more non-reactive within yourself, not because you're not invested in your life or caring about the people around you and what's going on and everything, but because I think that as this energy subsides, we'll feel like we didn't really move anywhere because we were just holding our own and doing what we need to do as far as taking the relaxation very seriously, showing up in the ways that we need to. I mean, I was yelled at the other day I haven't been yelled at by anybody in a long time, and it really affected me. I was like, I don't like that. I do not like that. In my opinion, I didn't deserve it. I'm not going to talk about it any further. But it's all about how we respond to things. So let's get the current energy. It's the Page of Pentacles. Thinking about this came out somewhat recently, thinking about our new moves. Oh, I was going to say with the Forged by Fire thing, one of the songs on my massive playlist was Just Like Fire by Pink, that comes from the soundtrack of the Alice in Wonderland movie. And I think she made it for that movie. But I listened to it on the drive home and then proceeded to hear it like not once, not twice, but 3 different times out and about. And I was like, this is a synchronicity. It's not the usual kind. It's not like songs coming to me. It's songs repeating. So that might be relevant for people too. If you're hearing the same thing like repeated, then pay attention to that. Page of Pentacles is our current energy. What's the energy to embrace? Justice. Yeah, let things balance out. If you don't like how things are going, then know that you're not like forgotten in divine order. Like if I'm just thinking of the obvious example, if you're getting, say, broken up with, or somebody's walking away from you, and it's like, if you don't like how things are going, trust that what you think would happen if you got your way right now is not what will truly make you happy. And it's like there's almost this dissonance sometimes when we think about things. Yeah, I mean, things do go wrong that upset us, and just because something might be better in the future doesn't mean it's not upsetting now. I'm not saying that. That's part of why it's important to just let things be as they are. And what I wrote about in the post around, like, we have to talk to ourselves like we're children and be like, it's okay to be, whatever you are feeling, because when you don't feel it, you postpone the release of that emotion, right? The suppression of emotions becomes stuck in the body, and they can create disease and pain. I mean, we can also become dissociated from our bodies very slowly, and all of a sudden, you know, it's, I don't know, 15 years later, and we're like, you may like walk differently and just feel, right? I can tell you from the way that I see things that there are a lot of people out there walking around completely dissociated from their bodies, and the energy of their soul exists. They're kind of detached. And also just, you know, overrun by just different attachments and just shadow. And I will tell you this, with the law of attraction, when you dial up and you're attractive to things that match that vibration, being able to hear angels and guides and attract in high positive, high vibrational experiences and people, and, you know, therefore creating memories that are like that, just being in this, you know, dazzling space that's of your own making. Like, you can, what does that look like? No, come on back. What does that look like for you, that dazzling space? Come on back. Muttley. It's just like, you know, when we continue to choose negatively how we respond to certain things, then you're on a vibration where, like, only then can certain dark energies, even if you don't perceive them, like, match with you and access you, right? Or take you down even further. So just letting things be as they are, because the energy to embrace is justice. And I always try to talk to people who might be struggling more than the viewer who isn't doing great, because I think that's the most helpful. But say you are loving the way that things are going, you know, this could be, I mean, there could be a lot of things that you've been owed, right? Universally. I'm going to tilt the camera because Melly keeps going back and forth on the couch where it's rested up, and I feel like I'm losing my angles. The things that start going right for you now could be really well earned, right? And like somewhat overdue, but they're not overdue again. This is the same thing I was saying about like how it's not like we're in denial about certain things. It's that we're finally like having to go through certain things that we, you know, sort of maybe haven't wanted to, but it wasn't the right time to even have to resolve that, because it was on a deeper layer of what's being released kind of sequentially in an order it's not really up to us, right? We're kind of experiencing these different transits energetically, and you set out on any given day and anything might happen, right? And so but that's where the collective cycles come in, because we are having similar experiences. Will you settle now, handsome? Are you ready just to... Yeah, it's like we couldn't even, and this is still the case for a lot of people, we cannot be hard on ourselves or upset about how things are going in our lives just because they're not at a certain way that we want them to be, because we're still kind of changing to be able to match that, you know? There's like, it's like we are in some ways on a train track or in a boxcar, and each and every day is a chance to kind of add your energy to the direction that you want to be going, because I'm seeing it like it's like timeline hopping again. You can vibrationally crash into a different track. You know, you're only going to get to the juncture to switch tracks if you try to, you know, you pull it in magnetically. You vibrate closer to a frequency that is more consistently more positive. You know, what an idea. This is the insanity around the fact that quantum physics is actually just like every cliche you've ever heard. Be here now. Follow your bliss. You know, be grateful. Every moment is a blessing. We are all snowflakes. I had a beautiful thought the other day. Maybe it's not beautiful. Doesn't matter. Excuse me. My thought was like, what if butterflies were like snowflakes, and when they hatched, you could never know or anticipate? Ow, my goodness. I did a poor maneuver for one of my feet. It didn't feel good. So I was just saying, maybe like, you know, how snowflakes, nature's like a quantum computer generating, you know, infinite patterns and combinations for water crystallizing into snowflakes because they're all unique and special. There's probably snowflakes that have looked remarkably similar, but I don't think under a microscope they ever will or do. And I was thinking about what if butterflies were like that, and you couldn't really identify any species because they were always just uniquely magnificent, you know, certain whatever colors you wanted, whatever, I don't know, wing shapes you wanted. Maybe that's what I'll do a painting series of, just my fictional butterflies that never end. I love it. Sold. No, that's me. Baby girl. Soph. That's just look me, baby. Soph. I'm doing it. We're good. When there's two dogs, they love to feed off each other. I'll have to continue doing my readings upstairs because, well, I actually quite like this now that I have a table here. I need to turn that space into exclusively a painting studio for the next 3 weeks, and that's why I'm going to be taking this hiatus, because I need to paint. I only have so much time, and I need to just not, you know, I've never said this because a lot of people who do YouTube channels like this say this a lot, and I guess it's no judgment. It's fine to say it. It's fine to not say it. But doing this, like channeling energy, takes a lot of energy out of you. It just exhausts you because you're moving energy, and like I tend to find certain readings energizing, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So I need to take a break from that work. I will always be able to do a lot of work if I'm passionate about the work that I'm doing. But it's still work. So maybe it didn't need to be said, but it was said. All right, this is energy to release. This is interesting. It's the World, which I think was an energy to embrace from the other day, and the Knight of Cups. Give me a clarifier, top and bottom. Oh, goodness. What have we gotten ourselves into? Yeah, I'm not having a very easy time seated on the floor because my knees don't feel good, but I'll just crouch like this for now. Okay. So we have the World, the Knight of Cups, Six of Pentacles. Dang. Oh, goodness. Okay. World, Knight of Cups, Six of Pentacles, and the last card is the Wheel of Fortune. And this is all in the release position. So what's interesting is that what is in the embrace position is sort of always juxtaposing what's in the embrace position. I mean, not always. They can kind of be more closely located on a sphere, but they tend to be these opposite facing things because one of them we're welcoming in, one of them we're releasing amidst this, right? This pondering of a material opportunity, an idea really, but something that's grounded, something that's happening for us or could. So the embrace, opposite these four, Wheel of Fortune too, is justice. And so when I see justice in the embrace, it's just like, I'm hearing order in the court. And judgment was out a couple weeks ago again, like the judgment down to the justice. It's like this trickle down of like, I mean, it's many things. the world is being collectively manifested. So it's a combination of what all people want deep down in their hearts, even though they don't know it. It's like a restoration of divine order, and that means like love and healing. It's a really beautiful time, and there's a lot of intense things happening, but I think that people are feeling a lot more deeply than they have in a very long time on a collective level. And I mean, that means a lot of different things for all the different, shades of human and being that exist. So it's easy to hear me say that and be like, yeah, everybody's feeling a love vibration, blah, blah, blah. It's like a taffy pull. It's like a taffy pull. There's just like this intensity right now where I do think that we have the ability to I'm also thinking about the exponential growth that we've seen around us on many fronts. Like, it does feel like time just flies by, right? And like, I think of the 90s and the early 2000s. It's just a simpler time. I just always harken back to a world where I can dress that way and use a flip phone and do the activities of that time. Or do them as an adult would now, I guess. But there's just been such exponential growth, and we're at this, it's a fractal, right? But we're really quantum leaping as a collective right now, and it's exhilarating, and that's why it's so insane to live through it. So when we have Six of Pentacles, Knight of Cups, the World, and the Wheel of Fortune, I'm seeing that we need to release. So the World is about like our world, our worldview. The Wheel of Fortune being like, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, but there, again, with like embracing justice, there's a divine order to how things turn, right? Or like you spin, if you spin the big wheel on the game show, you would get a result, right? Like, the wheel keeps turning. Things are always in flux. And I think part of what we're releasing right now, with the current energy being the Page of Pentacles, is something about like Six of Pentacles is like the outward expression of giving or being giving or having different people in our lives, in our worlds. Maybe that's not the most classic interpretation of that card, but I'm sort of seeing it as like releasing both the way that we feel about how we give to ourselves and how we give to other people and who we want to give to. Bentley's stirring again. Because I see them both as giving cards, Six of Pentacles and Knight of Cups. And Knight of Cups is like a healing energy too. So there's like these big, and this goes into what I was saying with the body and like soreness and releasing density from, it's like, yes, you feel it in the body, but it's spiritual density. When 10 of Wands as a card comes out with these 10 wands, that's not like your baggage. Baggage isn't physical, it's spiritual. It's how knotted your energy is, literally. Like, right, like a fractal, like these layers. I always talk about the twisties because that's how we get into it. Thinking about the layers and the complex and how that ties into, right, your psychology and your experiences, but also with the Akashic integration, your past lives. It's your energetic blueprint. And so I think that because the density with this like forged by fire thing, right, we are kind of like going to be having a rising from the ashes in the way that we need to, and we have to trust that it's karmic in some way, right? And justice is being served. So our karma is really being paid out in many ways, which is why I said if you don't like what's happening, then responding negatively to it will only make it worse. And if you do like what's happening, then like, there's just intensity. Like, I think if you're, there's just intensity. Yeah, so I'm also feeling like there's like a humbling energy too, because I put this in my post from yesterday, but it's like we need to kind of release this attempt to have things be different than they are for whatever reason, right? Because when we're like groveling with ourselves or with the universe, it's like childlike, right? I think, again, I used to say this in the summer, I talked about her more often, but I was having a lot of back and forth with my higher self as personified by a 100-year-old version, 111-year-old version of me. She would never be like, why? Like, I need, like needy and like demanding. That sometimes I feel that way, right? I'm not saying that's how I speak. I did slip up with the AAA guy because that was absurd. I just got frustrated, it happens to the best of us, and that's okay. And honestly, he should learn. They shouldn't have sent him if he didn't know, right? Not to be unkind, I'm just being matter of fact and realistic. But there's something humbling about the restructuring and the releasing of whatever karmic shifts are taking place. They're helping us to realize that like we are at where we're at, and there's reasons for that. And this applies to the world too. And we can kind of call back certain energies as we're taking care of ourselves during these very intense energetic changes. And then know, even as we kind of call back that energy to ourselves, we can still, we still, no matter how, I don't know how this wants to be said. I'll give it a shot. I guess no matter how lonely or isolated we may feel or how low we feel, you always have something to give, as far as like to yourself, even if it's just like another blanket. Like there's something very important energetically about a giving loop, a feedback loop. This is why I choose to engage with people around me, because I like having a nice flow of energy. And more than that, I like contributing positive energy to, and I don't just willy-nilly connect with any and all people. I'm discerning about that, because I like connecting with and amplifying energies that resonate with me. But taking it back to this level of like Six of Pentacles and Knight of Cups, we're releasing this idea that we either are obligated to certain people or things or ways of being giving of ourselves. Like we're releasing these old ways of showing up to relationships, but showing up to ourselves. And those two things are so closely, knit together, because who are you to yourself, and who are you to the people around you? And who have you been, and who would you like to be? A lot of the things, this is what goes back to what I was saying with how we are this consumerist culture, and a lot of people think about what they want to have, or exclusively what they want to provide for others. And there's this beautiful balance where when you keep the circuitry of the energetic giving loop open, you give to yourself and you give to others, and it's part of one thing because you're healthy. And that's, again, justice being restored. What's our biggest challenge right now? Interesting. We have the Queen of Swords and the Ace of Swords. But what came out with them was the Lovers. This is a lot of air energy. We are still in Libra season. We're getting ready for Scorpio season, this new moon in Libra. Justice, right? Being restored. This reading's very apropos. The Lovers can be a choice and a decision. The Swords is about, communication, truth, speaking with clarity. The Queen of Swords is about being, certain and confident. This is our biggest challenge, feeling like we can trust our own feelings and make decisions right now. I think that's because it's very unstable. And instead of needing to act, remember when I said, like, just trying your best to respond somewhat positively to most things, that will keep you where you need to be right now, instead of having to. I think that we're thinking that we're doing a poor job, navigating or making decisions. Like personally, I had a moment, I'll share this earlier today, where I was like, I don't feel as like magical. Seriously, this is how I was feeling. Like, this is exactly how I would have spoken to myself about it, because I get whiny when I'm not, rested or fed, or just, I have my needs, and I know about that. So that's how I live my life, is navigating an even keel, right? And sometimes you're not going to feel as good. Sometimes there is intensity, and that's okay too. So we think that we think that we're not doing something because we don't feel a certain way. But maybe there are things that are a little bit outside of our control, and this is going to be, so if this is our biggest obstacle, feeling like we're not able to, move with as much confidence, or be clear about what it is that we're trying to do, or what we want, or like make moves in a certain way. It's a general collective reading, so it could be any of those things. What is the biggest advice for that? My intuitive read is like, just aim for treading water, because when this passes, you won't have sank. That's a karmic cycle, right? If you choose to kind of ride the merry-go-round again and go through with, having the same old responses to things that you recognize from your past, but, more consciously, if you're trying to do rewriting of patterns, become more conscious of your own, whatever it is, attachment styles, conditioning, things that you typically, this is the advice. Yeah, the Hanged Man. Getting another one. Your default stuff, right? What you're prone to, and how you are, and certain things that you want to change. Okay. So look, it's just like the other day, where there's almost an equal, if not more, major arcana cards coming out than minor. The advice is the Hanged Man and the Strength card. So again, this is the Empress, and she's taming the ego of the Emperor. Strength, being strong. It's not about force. When she does this, she doesn't conquer him. That's not what it's about. That's not what a Empress feminine energy is or does when she's fully empowered. There's a calming, she doesn't have to do anything by force. The lion wants to be with her. So there's a calmness about this that's more powerful than, anything. It's the synergy within ourselves where we act with imbalance. And therefore, like a hologram or a fractal or a snowflake, our inner world and our ability to possess that will benefit every single person in your life, and in existence for that matter. This is the quantum entanglement part of your responsibility. And it's not like we're all superheroes. It's just it really does matter just to try to be a good person and kind to people. That does matter. In fact, there are, people getting together right now, tomorrow, Sunday. It's the evening of the 14th of October, Saturday, by the way, when I'm doing this recording. There are people who are getting together to do collective group prayers to pray for the Middle East and the situations unfolding. And that has an effect. So you think about, people praying away cancer in group ceremonies and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be some grand thing, though. Just trying to be a little bit kinder throughout your moments will not only benefit you and keep you in this space of just being able to move forward, but it is energetically important. And so with the Strength card being our advice with the Hanged Man, it's when you are, we forget that we have this inside of us, the ability to be this way. And again, I'm seeing it's a cartoon of a person's inner child running around looking for another place to go get in trouble. And we're almost at this point where it's we don't it's the games are over. You're just fooling yourself when you do that. Why would you even want to when you reach a certain point in your own awareness, continue self-sabotaging, basically, or running away from the things that you're just prolonging, healing, and acknowledging, working through, and like taking care of, so that you can evolve, right? Because when we know better and we don't do better, then the universe starts to like throw towers, and like the karmic wheel of fortune still turns, but we have merged with our little boxcar, right? We ran into a lower vibrational trajectory and we took it repeatedly. This is why it's always a choice. And when people are very victim-y about their own circumstances, it's never the way to ascend, because you're still like, and it's bad, and it's bad. You're affirming everything you don't want, instead of shining the flashbulb of your attention to the highest possible thing that you can imagine to uplift you. Try to attach your energy to the most beautiful thing for yourself, for those you love, for the collective. This is like the light work mission. This is my favorite thing to do, have beautiful visions about the future where we can not only acknowledge everything that's going in the world, but take it in a new way. Take it in a new direction. Heck yeah. That was at the bottom of the deck, the Emperor. That's my Emperor energy. I'm like, let's do this. Okay. I think that was pretty succinct, actually. What else do we want to know? What's the hidden energy? We're just feeling overwhelmed. I don't think that's hidden. I think that we're a little bit more overwhelmed than we think, because I think that just like with anything, we've been getting overwhelmed slowly and it's become really overwhelming, but we're also somewhat functional, and like, it's like the whole thing with like how crazy the world is today. People are like, yeah, I mean, it's just, we're just slowly living. It's why there's all those fall of Rome jokes on the internet. People like, what is that? We're like making memes, like it's just like the collision of apatheticism and like, you know, humor and like crisis. It's somewhat like deranged, like collectively deranged, really. And just the layers of consciousness. It's an ocean out there. It's insane. Everybody's on a completely different wavelength. So yeah, it's overwhelming. That's why I want to, like, I'm a little friend, like, I have a lifeboat in the storm. You can come listen to me. Sometimes you know, whatever I'm moved to do, I would like to be candid with the way that I continue to do this. I have so much to share, actually. That's a little backlogged, but honestly, I just have to trust that I will get the messages out that I'm meant to share when I am meant to share them. So moving on, clarifying the Seven of Cups and the hidden energy is the Five of Swords. So within this overwhelm, right, it's like we don't have that, I don't know, I'm gonna call it the glow, because that's how I feel. I'm like, I don't feel as like absolutely like I'm at the forefront of my own manifestation, because there are like with that series of unfortunate events with my car, right? It's like that does take you down a little bit, even if you end up being like managing of it, especially when you have a friend to just laugh the whole time with. But when we don't feel like that, and then we start thinking that we should be making, you know, decisions with more confidence and feeling more harmonized with, you know, our own selves and the things in our lives, and we're not like speaking as well as we like. To be honest, I was like, I never have a hard time. Sometimes I go through phases of not being able to articulate myself very well. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons why it could happen if I'm not like well rested enough. But just like, and I'm doing it on this video too. Stutters or like just glitches, because I'm just like not as grounded as I usually am. Not that I'm not connecting, but it's just like we get into these spaces where when we're like that, the negative thoughts will creep in. This is what's clarifying the overwhelm. So when we're in these states where we don't feel like we have as much of a solid footing, it is so much more common for people to air negative in that space. So don't do that. How do you not do it? That wanted to flip. I wonder what it was. How do you not do it? You look it right in the eye and you say, I've been here before. I know that thoughts are things. I know that this is like, think about this. Think about sitting in silence and having like wind rush by your ears or ambient noise of people talking or cars moving by. And then imagine it all going away like a vacuum. No sound, no light, no nothing. No breath, right? If you haven't heard of the Wim Hof breathing technique, you should look it up. I would encourage everybody to try that. It's very cool. In a very short amount of time, with a guided thing on YouTube, you can hold your breath and enter this state of like weightlessness. This is also making me think of sensory deprivation tanks. Those are important and cool. But I'm just talking about being like truly conscious on a soul level, where when we can kind of transcend the, right? We are in this current energy of thinking about our pentacle-based life because that's how we are. That's why we're here. We are having this physical human experience. And everybody has, you know, the same ability to have their own mind and their own inner world, right? And we all mill about, all 8 billion of us, or however many humans there are out there. And we walk in the world with karma, and then we start generating it immediately. Again, it's just a word that means action. Cause and effect, right? Particles milling about. And they're vibrationally, there's like, this is where the law of attraction comes in. They pool together and they pull against each other. And then there's just like different networks of energy where there are connections where you will gravitate different, you know, people in towards you and experiences. And so the conscious part is knowing that that is always the activity. And when you are faced with, you know, it could be micro, macro, it could be the negative thoughts in your own mind, one negative thought or a whole slew of them. Or it could be like opportunities to do worse when you know better, right? No matter what it is. It is the ability to latch on to the conscious choice of your own autonomy, right? And your ability to respond as a healed person. Because I said in the summer, right, I was like checking in with my higher self. And this was actually a post too that I saw by Ashmi Path on Instagram today, where she was like, I don't talk about my higher self as much because it's like it dropped into me. Like I've been going through this really big level up in integration, and it resonated with me because I did stop referencing her because I don't have to go check with her anymore. She's a lot more present in my being because I've been practicing, trying to make wiser decisions. And when you practice things, the buffer of having to engage that conscious, you know, going a different direction or behaving and moving from a certain place within yourself, it will be more readily seated from the, you know, the place where you make your decisions from. Clarify that. Top and bottom to clarify that. Oh, wow. So I said clarify that, and these two cards flipped out. What is it? This exhaustion and this commitment to putting in work to changing things in our physical life. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is like, just remember that all changes in the physical world come from within. No, it's not enough just to change, you know, the way you feel about things and have it magically manifest in your world. But when, you know, even if you do a bunch of outer work, but you don't change the root within you, then you'll always be in this mode, right? You'll never be able to see or feel, because it's like, you have to be able to align what you create outside of yourself with your inner state. And so what came out with those Pentacle cards is the Ten of Swords and the Four of Wands. It's about kind of being defeated, but there being this ability to have stability. Give me, yeah, Ace of Cups. Has to do with a new way of being emotional, or at least embracing a tenderness, because Ten of Swords is like a complete defeatedness. And it has to do with, again, going back to the reading where I used the nocturnal deck, and the Ace of Chalices was like a fountain that is self-cycling. So that is where all of the other energy is like contingent upon. It's also how we get blocked with things around this like prolonging of really feeling, processing, and going through emotions. When you don't go through emotions, they will eat your body alive. You know, somehow. We can't just shut down and dissociate entirely. It is where illness comes in. And so if you're only focusing on the external, you know, the pentacles, then I feel like we don't end up with stability, right? We end up defeated before we get that. Because of the whole thing I was saying earlier with like the network of love, like a frequency of love, right? In the world, being more available to heal people. Yeah, so that people can walk a little bit less burdened. There's just a lot of different fixtures and structures and systemic, societal trauma and oppression and stuff. And humanity is moving away from that. And it's very intense. It's a very big deal. I mean, come on, let me just show you all the major arcanas that came out in this one reading. Are you ready? It's a fashion show. Hanged Man. Strength. The World. The Wheel of Fortune. Justice. The Lovers. I know I'm not letting them focus. I'm just flying by. The Devil. And the Emperor. It's intense. So just be good to yourself and keep all of that in mind. And I really hope that everybody's doing okay. I really hope. And I also didn't want to make everything sound like it's not, you know, good right now. I will always say everything's still, you know, improving. I had a very interesting talk with a friend who's not very hopeful about certain things that are happening in the world, and it was interesting. It always is, because I still believe, you know, that the world's going to be okay, and that's worth talking about. So I'll share more of that later. And just yeah. I haven't decided. This ended up being pretty long, so maybe I won't do whatever. We'll see. Bye.